Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie B. I read a ton of books. And I am wrapping up the last week of my reading, which was the days leading up to Valentine's Day. And I'd set an actual TBR that I was going to try and finish books out of. And I was going to try and finish 7. I only finished 6 books total, and 1 was definitely not in that TBR. So, not quite. 5 instead of 7. But I did stick to my TBR. So, not terrible. 1 was an audiobook that was kind of on my TBR, but not in the stack, which I was allowing. So that's all right. If you hear hissing in the background, I'm cat sitting, sort of, and there's a giant, and I mean giant, like 25-pound black cat that's hanging out with us tonight. So my cats are concerned. So yeah. Anyway, back to the books. So when I set my TBR for the week, it was to see if I could stick to a TBR at all. Like, how disciplined can the Jamie be? Well, so I had 1 book that I was going to listen to that I didn't have in print, but it was for the 6 books I need to read for the BookTube prize for the current round. So I finished that one. And then I had an audiobook that was not something I had in print, and then 4 other books. So the ones that are in the thumbnail, I actually finished in print. They're done. They get to go away. I listened to and read this one. So Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. 5 stars. Excellent book. Highly recommend it. And it is very pertinent to the current events, current political and historical setting of the United States. It has good information. It's well researched. It's not preachy. It is very much a history-oriented book. That's something that I'd had questions about, whether it belonged in my history section at the bookstore where I work, or if it should be more in the political science or sociology section. It's definitely history. It does make arguments, but not enough to make it no longer history. It's just history with a message, not just straight up academic history. So I really enjoyed it. I will be reading The Warmth of Other Suns, which is Wilkerson's other book that I do have in the history section. So I'll bring a copy of that home next time we have one that's not in great condition. So that I can read it. Actually, I might even bring one home in a couple weeks anyway, because the area that our bookstore uses for bag of books is also the area that all the overflow books go into. So I know I have 2 overflow copies back there now of The Warmth of Other Suns. So unless I sell the copies that are out in the store and have to use the overflow copies, they will be back there during Bag of Books. And guaranteed they're not going to both go in somebody else's bag before I do my first Bag of Books. So that might be when I get a copy of Wilkerson's other book. So we'll see. And yes, our bookstore has the spring Bag of Books sale the first week of March. So that'll be fun. And I will be working all 3 days. It will probably be the last major sale that I work at this bookstore too. Because if all goes well, and I'm still new to starting a new business, I do not know how long it's going to take to secure funding for my business. So that's something that I'm going to be setting up appointments with an organization in town that helps small businesses get started, so that I can learn how to do it. So that's going to be probably this coming week. And if all goes well, Ravenmount, which has been my blog for a long time, since 2011, will have a brick and mortar store. I will have a bookstore and a craft store. It will be donations-based books and crafts. And it will be coming as soon as we can get everything lined up. At the moment, I have a building even that I like the idea of. There may be another one I like more by the time I have funding secured. But I have an idea of which one I would be making an offer on if I had the funding secured right now. So, this coming bag of books will probably be my last major sale at the bookstore where I'm at, because the next one after that would be I think a half off sale in June, and I definitely think I'll be in my own store by then. So yeah, significant things happening. And I've already started boxing my books, starting with the ones that I know are mine. And then I need to get my sister over here so that we can figure out which books are hers and which books are mine for the ones that I don't quite know if they're hers. So that'll be an adventure. But there's plenty that I definitely know are mine, especially if I got them from bag of book sales. Like, those are mine. Or if I got them from gleaning, or if I got them from, recycling shelves and stuff like that. I have a lot of books. So, yeah, so stay tuned for that. There will be lots of excitement. And I will talk about my bookstore project as I go along. So, you will hear lots more, because it's such an exciting adventure. Yeah. So, back to the books that I finished, though. Let's stay focused here. Yes. I finally finished Marshall's Law by Ben Sanders. This is one that I stalled out on because I put it in a project bag. I think I brought it with me somewhere. But it was in a project bag. It was under a crochet project, and then other things got put in there, other yarn, and I didn't even find the book for months. So I finally finished it. It was okay, like 3.5 stars. Part of how it got to go missing and didn't ever get finished is that I'd already not been reading it very assiduously when I read the first half, because it was just dragging. The pacing is off. I was just bored. So, not the best thriller, definitely. It's one that involves characters that I think are part of a series, maybe, but I'm not sure. Yeah, he has an enigmatic lead character, according to a blurb on the front. Yeah, maybe I would like it more if I read more Ben Sanders. So, I'm not going to write off reading more, but I'm not rushing out to get more. It's an agent on the run story where somebody's trying to kill him, and a retired field agent gets kidnapped. I think he was retired. Pretty sure he was. But he gets kidnapped, and the kidnapper wants to know the location of somebody that's, in hiding. And it all has to do with some case a long time ago where a now retired or less active police officer had shot somebody I don't know if it was a police officer either. I think there was a play on Marshall, but you can tell how much I didn't like this book very much. Because I vaguely remember, it might have been a play on the name Marshall. That they were actually a U.S. Marshal looking for Marshall. And yeah, anyway. But it just wasn't very well focused, and I was bored, and yeah, so. Not terrible, just I've read better, and I was not drawn in by this one. I finished Timbuktu by Paul Auster, which I was supposed to read in January. I finally finished it in, 2 weeks into February. Not terrible. Not great, but not terrible. I liked it. Probably 4.75. I think that's what I gave it on Storygraph. I think I just wasn't in the mood for it, so some of the cute stuff where you're in the dog's perspective is just, I don't know. I just wasn't in the mood for it. Otherwise, it was well done. I was concerned that it was going to be too cute, because I've read quite a few books where they're in an animal's perspective, and they tend to be cozy, smushy. Not me. This one wasn't smushy. It was actually, like, the dog was a character, like a person kind of character. So it wasn't overly cutesified. The dog couldn't communicate by speaking, but certainly understood speech. And his inner dialogue was definitely a person's inner dialogue, not a cute little mindless thing. So I liked that. And it, still kept enough difference that, the dog is definitely a dog, not a person. Doesn't understand some things because he's a dog. And, he goes through some adventures, and it reminded me kind of the, Impossible Journey. Is that the one with the dog and the cat, and they go on a grand adventure down a river? So it reminded me of that story, anyway, where you have a dog that's, traveling distance and surviving when his stable home environment gets disrupted. So this one is actually on the Boxall's 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die list, so I can actually check one off. It's not very long. It's an author that I've read a few of. I was trying to read all of Paul Auster for a while there. But I need to do them in chunks of 2 or 3 at a time. So I might read another Paul Auster in the next month. But if I read too many in a row, they start to get old. This one, though, is different enough that it doesn't blend in with the others. So I definitely know what this one's about because it's about a dog. The other ones tend to be about middle-aged dudes and mid-age crisis stuff, and they have identity issues because they're not old but they are, or I don't know. So being not a middle-aged dude myself, I suppose partly they might be harder to notice the differences in because to me they all run together because I don't relate to them very well because I'm not a middle-aged dude. Anyway, grumble. There's the other booktubers on here that also have tried to figure out what it is about Paul Auster that it's not always a 5-star. So I have my theories, and I'm also female. Most of the people that I've come across on BookTube that read Paul Auster are men. So not really sure if my reasons and their reasons are going to be exactly the same, but the vibe is still like he's a solid 4-star, but not always a 5-star author. And that's been true for me for a while now. So I think this is book 5 or 6. I've read several of his anyway. But not terrible. And it is a book with a dog in it. If you're a dog person, it will probably be a 5-star. I'm a cat person, and it's not really a cat person book. but it's still fun. And then I did finish I Married You for Happiness by Lily Tuck, winner of the National Book Award, which is nice. I don't know offhand if this is the book that won or if it's just the author that won. Because usually they put the thing on it. But I will have to look that up. Yeah, but it was okay. It's also not a 5-star, but like 4.5 stars. In this one, we have a woman whose husband has died, and she's sitting with the body until the sun comes up. I don't think as any sort of religious thing. It's not like a religious ritual of watching the body for 24 hours or 3 days or anything like that. There are several religious groups that do that, I know. They're not all the same amount of time, and they don't all have the same excuse for it. But this is just, her husband has died, it's nighttime. She's not going to deal with it till morning. So she's just sitting or laying with the body of her deceased husband till the sun comes up. And remembering. And her husband was a math and physics guy. So some of the remembering is interludes about math concepts and science concepts, because he was a teacher or instructor or professor at various points, teaching subjects. And he seems like a bit of a pedantic, natural teacher sort of person that kind of can't help himself when topics like these come up, even if it's with his wife and it annoys her. So there's science concepts that kind of allude back and forth between themselves and other things that happen in their lives. And at some point there's kind of a parallel universes, sort of like the metaverse sort of thing, that's suggested, and maybe it's not memories, maybe this is 2 universes, one where he's dead and one where he's not, or yeah. But it's not really very clear. It's just a hint that maybe you could think of it that way, but it's really just she's sitting with the body until morning. So I really liked her more recent book that I read as an ARC that was about a mother and daughter who became victims of the Holocaust. This one didn't have as nice a focus for me, because the way the remembering happened was, it wasn't in any particular order. It was just kind of a jumble. And maybe there's a way to do typesetting to make it less jumbly, but reading it was harder sometimes to figure out what I was reading in a way that detracted from the book. So that was a bit annoying. I think the audiobook might be more effective. I don't know if there is one, but I would imagine there might be, because then it would be interpreted by the reader, by the audiobook reader, and maybe it would make more sense of some of the jumps from different time settings and place settings and perspectives. I just found it a little too jumbled to follow easily, and for a short book like this, it was frustrating rather than clever. Lily Tuck's recent book, the one about the Holocaust victims, was also playing around with nonlinearity in storytelling, and she was using lists and documents and other things rather than just doing straight prose. And I did like her experimental format in that one. So I think this one might have just needed some tweaking, maybe, as I said, just in something like typesetting, just to have more of an idea of when we're moving in time and when we're moving in space, and some indication when we're back in the room with the dead guy before she has to touch him and comment that he's cold again. And sometimes that seemed pretty awkward, where it seemed like she just put in a comment about the guy's hand still being cold so that we know that that's where we're at. But where it wouldn't necessarily have been what she'd naturally do in that moment otherwise. So, I don't know. So, no solid 5-star fiction in the ones that I had in print. Cast was the only solid 5-star out of these 4. And it was definitely good. And then Theft by Abdul Razak Gurnah was one of the audiobooks that I listened to. This one I really liked. It either won a Nobel Prize or the author did. And that's something where the cover has the rondelle on it. And I don't really know for sure if it won or not. So I might need to look at that. Hold on. Okay. I pulled up the actual listing for this book. It's the first new novel by Abdul Razak Gurnah since he won the Nobel Prize for literature. So it's not the winner. It's just by the guy that won sometime earlier. This book is set in Tanzania and Zanzibar. So if you are looking for books for a Read Around the World challenge and need Tanzania or Zanzibar, this is a useful book to know about. It is also one of the books on the BookTube Prize checklist that made it into the first round of 48 books. And I enjoyed this one. I was not constantly looking to see how much time I had left, which tends to be something I do if it's not hitting a 5-star. After a while, like, okay, how much time do I have left? Do I want to switch to another book for a while? I wasn't doing that for this one. I actually was just focused on the story. So I don't think I had anything that I was annoyed about by the end of the book. There were some things where I might have put things in a different order or something, but not to a point where it was detracting from the story, just, quibbling kind of things. Like, it's not necessary to do it the way I would have done it. I'm not the author. So, I think at the time that I finished the book, I think I was leaning towards 5 stars, and I think having sat with the after effects, I think I'm still 5 stars on that one. So I need to look and see once I finish the remaining book from that set of 6, which ones I rated what, and whether my ratings at the time I finished them reflect my later impressions now that I've sat with them a little while. But I did see that I have the last book has come in. It's at the library. Not the library I'm going to tomorrow, but the library that I can go to on Monday. So I can pick it up on Monday. It's one that I think it was actually something I had to put on hold because they hadn't actually finished adding it to the collection yet. It's one that, at least for our library system, we hadn't gotten it until this copy. So I would not have been able to get it any sooner from the library. So I will be doing that in the next week as well. And hopefully we'll get my 6 books read and rated and start reading some of the other ones that I know I probably need to read. Anyway, so Theft by Abdul Razak Gurnah was definitely a good book. I definitely recommend it. The setting is not something that I read very often. I might have read one or two other books in Tanzania. I don't remember reading another book in quite a while set in Zanzibar. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. And otherwise, it reminded me more of A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. Different setting, different family, but that kind of family story. So, yeah, so that was interesting. And I liked A Suitable Boy as well. That was a 5-star for me. So, yeah. Maybe I like those kinds of family drama stories set in interesting places. When they're well done. This was well done, too. The other one I finished was The Crash by Frida McFadden. One of the people in my social circle on BookTube is reading Frida McFadden, and several others turn out to be too. And I have a coworker at the bookstore where I'm at now that really likes Frida McFadden, is excited that I'm reading them. So I checked out a couple more after I checked out The Crash, and I will be finishing those in the next week or two. Probably in the next week, because I don't have that much time on those. But The Crash was just kind of okay. It's a pregnant lady in a crash on a snowy road. She gets rescued. And maybe the rescue was not such a great thing, except she would have died otherwise, so yay, at least she's not dead. But maybe she's in trouble. And beyond that, I'll let you read it, because there is a twist. I'm finding that, yes, there are twists to her books. So I can't say much more than that without giving away something that's going to be a spoiler. But it's one of those, it's a, pregnant lady in a crash. Yeah. I liked the ending. It was a little predictable. And it wasn't stellar writing where I felt like it was a 5-star or a 4.5 with being predictable. So it's just a solid 4. So not terrible. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But not my favorite Frida McFadden. Is it Never Lie that's hers? I read a whole bunch of books with lie in the title last year, and that was one of them. Never Lie by Frida McFadden. That sounds right. Anyway, the one with lie in the title that's recent. That one I think is my favorite of the ones I've read so far. So, I haven't read that many. I've read that one and The Tenant and The Crash so far. So, we'll see by the end of this season what my favorite Frida McFadden is. Anyway, so those are the books that I read in the days that were the test to see if I could finish books from my TBR. So, I'm setting another TBR. So I'm going to get the books together here and then show you my new TBR. Okay, I had to change the angle of my camera a little bit because one of the books for this next week's TBR was under the laptop. I totally forgot where I put it. That would be why. So, I am adding in The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. It's one that somebody was reading last month, and I said something about doing a FOMO TBR for this month, and I kind of did. I put together the ones people had been talking about, and then I started packing my books and everything got jumbled. So I don't remember how many I had stacked up, but I know this one was on it. So The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, for sure. Then I have a couple library books. The Book of Records by Madeline Thien. This is one that several booktubers have mentioned this author as somebody they thought was a possible prize list author. And so far, they've not been correct with her in previous prizes, but they keep suggesting her. So I probably should read her because enough people say that she's really great. So there's that one. And this one, look at the size of this book. Ugh. Tom's Crossing by Mark Z. Danielewski. Ugh. This chunker, it's heavy too. Like, it's got heavier paper than a lot of books this size. I'm not sure why. But that book is on the list of 48 books for the BookTube Prize checklist. And if it ends up on a group of 6 that I need to read, that's a chunker. So I might want to start it early and at least get an idea what it's about. Even if I don't finish it all the way, if I just get halfway through, have an idea what it is, and then when I need to read it on a schedule for a thing, I can go and check it out again. Or get it from a bookstore. Or, maybe by then I'll get it donated at my bookstore. Who knows? But for now, I'm at least going to get it started so that I know what I'm getting myself into. Because I still have House of Leaves back there that I was supposed to have been reading in December. And I haven't gotten to it yet. So I may be psyching myself out of reading this author by making a big deal of something that's not. But I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know. So anyway, so that's the 3 that are for sure being added. And then I do have one that I got as a 6-hour. So book that I got for working for 6 hours. The Correspondent by Virginia Evans, which is also, I think, on the BookTube Prize checklist. Pretty sure it's in a different group as well. So I have those. I'm trying to remember what I also got as a 6-hour. I think I have one more. Let me see. Okay, I figured it out. It was Hiding in Plain Sight because it's a Barbara Kingsolver, Flight Behavior. Because I have the Lacuna and Unsheltered that are carryovers from last week. That I can read them this week as part of the TBR. I'm just adding some books because I finished some. But yeah, I had it sitting with my other Barbara Kingsolvers. I totally forgot. That's the one I got from yesterday's shift. So I like the shiny. We had other covers of this book before, but I like this one a lot better. So, and it has the deckled edges. Let's see if I can get it to focus. You can see the texture on that. I'm not a super stickler for the texture or the covers of my books, but I do like the feel of the ones that have the deckled edges because it's easier to turn the pages. So, yeah, so I like that. So yeah, that's my additions to my TBR. The rest of them are the ones that were the TBR last week. So I'm going to still see what I can finish. I was going to do a Valentine's Day TBR and then realized Valentine's Day was on a day that I would be working at the bookstore extra because we did a half off sale for members yesterday and today, and so I was doing extra work at the bookstore and was not focused on reading a lot. So these things happen, and I'm not really a romance reader, so I was looking around for, maybe I could do a romantic colored covers, like red and pink and purple kind of covers or something. But my heart's not in it. I'm just not into those books very much. I might throw in something romantic, or I don't know. I still feel like I should recognize Valentine's Day in some way. So let's see if we can come up with something. Alright, so I have this one that's awfully Valentine's covered. It's called History and Memory by Jacques Le Goff. And it's definitely not a Valentine's book. It's about historiography. But it's Valentine's colored. And I keep looking at it like, oh, yeah, that would be the colors. I have Kristen Hanna book. This is one I was going to use for Valentine's Day. Home Again. So I'll at least try it. It might be a DNF. I'm not sure what I think of her more cozy family sort of books. Can you hear him? Yo, what's up, dude? Hi. That's the giant cat. If he comes around where I can point the camera at him, I totally will, because he is epic. He makes all of my reasonably large cats look like half-grown kittens by comparison. He's huge. Anyway, so I got these. I like the concept of 3. So we might need one more. Dead Birds is not romantic. I have the Book of Dead Birds by Gail Brandis. It has Valentine's cover, so that might still work. Here we go. I'll do 4. Because 1,000 Years of Good Prayers, Stories by Yegun Lee. It's Valentine's sort of aesthetic. And The Book of Dead Birds by Gail Brandis, which is Valentine's color. So that'll be my audition for my TBR for this next week. Hi, dude. You want to be on a camera? Yeah, hi. Hi. Mr. Dude. Let's see if I can get you to play on a camera. Yeah. There's the dude. Hi. Yeah. Oh, hey, look. Oh my goodness, he freaks out there, the cat. Yeah, hi, dude. Oh my goodness, he's such a... You want to show everybody how big you are? No. Okay, so that is Quincy Jones. And this tabby here is a mostly grown, probably 10-pound, 9 or 10-pound cat. Quincy Jones is massive. Yeah. Okay. Cat TV there. So he's the one that we're giving a chance to have a break from his normal living quarters for the night, and then he does need to go back to his own person. But he's behaving himself for now. He's cute, and he really is like a 25-pound cat, mostly muscle. So, not my cat. I am not keeping another one. But anyway, on aside, those are the books I'm going to focus on. I will do another update probably in a week. So the 21st or 22nd. And hopefully I'll have some updates on how my bookstore project is going as well. Once I have the store put together, at least on paper, so that I can open a bank account for the store. Then I'm also going to be setting up social media that includes like memberships. It wasn't something I was even thinking about really for my channel or anything as just a channel, but I have some ideas for Ravenmount bookstore memberships that will be in conjunction with my social media presence. So I will flesh out what that looks like over the next month or so. But that's something that if you're not in my area and want to be involved in this grand bookstore project, that is something where you can be involved, even at a distance. And, you know, it should be a mutually beneficial arrangement that I think will make a lot of people happy. Hi, dude. Do you want to be on camera once more and then I'm going to call it for the video? Yeah? Mr. Dude? Yeah, hi, dude. He's a big kid. He's a big kid. Yeah. Go look at us, these two kids. Yes. Are you gonna play? Alright, we'll even get a Siamese. Hi, guys. Come here. See if he's come into the camera yet. There he is. Yep, there he is. There's one of our Siamese tripods. Yep. Yep, so we've got Quincy Jones and Chespurr Womcat. The Siamese tripod. And Chespurr Womcat looks to me very much like a wombat, but white Siamese and a cat. So he's a womcat. So, alright, so I am signing off for this video. There will be more cats, I promise. Yes. And I will see you guys in the next video or on somebody's chats somewhere on BookTube. Talk to you later, guys. Bye!